Morning everybody, it's Pete Turner here again from Turnaround Limited, and this is my story of my Doncaster Road Barnsley conversion. So this is a conversion from a 3-bedroom terraced house, mid-terrace in Barnsley, to a 4-bed multi-let house. I bought this house in the front end of 2020. So I sorted Rosegarth out and got a refinance for 30,000, and then I was looking for my next investment. I just found Samuel Leeds' channel, Buy Low, Rent High book, and I was wanting to put some of those things into practice. Okay, so as a bit of background, Barnsley had said in May 2020 that they wanted to move to Article 4 May the 23rd, 2021, and I thought that that was a good opportunity to convert this house that we found in Barnsley from a 3-bedroom terrace to a 4-bedroom multi-let. So the house had already been let historically as a 4-bed multi-let. It had 2 really good size double bedrooms, one in the attic and one on the first floor. The lounge was also quite a big room, and then it had a 10'7" single type room as well. So I put in an offer on the house at 67,000 in the middle of 2020, and the house was accepted. When the surveys came in and the builders went round, they found some asbestos and some roofing problems, so I suggested that we move to 65, and we met at 66 in the middle with the buyer. And my aim was to convert the house into a 4-bed multi-let from a 3-bedroom terrace, to get everything finished by the end of the year, and then get tenants in, get 4 ASTs ready for the Article 4 governance coming in May 21. So for those who don't know what Article 4 is, it's a regulation that the council can bring in to make it so that when you make a house of multiple occupation, you need planning permission. So generally what happens is all houses of multiple occupation after the regulation go up in value, normally by about 20% after the regulations come in, because it's so hard to make a multi-let after the Article 4 regulations come in. Anyway, so we managed to complete on the house at the beginning of October 2020, and my builder Mick went in. We did about 3 months worth of refurb. When we brought the letting agent in, they said that there needed to be a wall from the stairs to the front door, because there needed to be a way of the tenants escaping if there was a fire in the kitchen area. They needed to be able to escape through the front door, so we had to also make a new wall from the stairs to the front door, and then obviously needed thumb turn locks so that the tenants could escape. Anyway, we finished the renovations in around March time, and I put it on the market with Beecroft Estates, and I thought I was going to let it straight away, but unfortunately they had no luck in letting it. And in order to meet the Article 4 recommendations, you have to have 3 tenants that are already letting the house prior to the regulations coming in, which was going to be May 21. So he was saying that there was no demand for tenants and he couldn't find tenants and blah blah. So I left it until the end of April, and then had a chat with Craig from G8 Properties, who were on the top of Sheffield Road in Barnsley near the house, and he said he'd got a waiting list. So I put it with them at the beginning of May, and by the end of the first week in May, the house was tenanted with 4 tenants on AST contracts. That was great. So I thought, right, I'm sorted now. The house is finished. I've got 4 tenants. So bought the house 66. The refurb cost me 12,000, and the furniture was £2,000. So that took me up to 80,000 on Doncaster Road, and then the survey came in from the refinance at 110. So that made me a profit of 30 grand. So 110 minus 80,000 gives me 30 grand profit. And then the gross rent on Doncaster Road is now 1,400 a month. So that makes me around £700 to £800 profit a month, depending on if there's any maintenance that's needed at the house. Anyway, right at the end of the refinance, so they wanted to reduce the LTV, the loan to value, down to 70%, which was fine in the end. Not ideal, but took me down to a pull out of around 27,500 on the house. But on the last day when they were going to send the money and everything was completed, the internal surveyor at the mortgage lender said that I needed the AST contracts from prior to May 2020 in order to fulfill the mortgage condition. So this was a real blow, because I didn't own the house until October 2020, so there was no way of getting the AST contracts from prior to that. And the old landlord, she wouldn't send me any of the contracts or anything, so it was a bit of a dead end. So they said that I could either send them the AST contracts for the house, or I could send them a certificate of lawful development, which is a certificate that you have to get from the council. So from my refinance dates around August time, I then had to apply for a planning certificate from the council, which is called a certificate of lawful development. I've never done one before. The actual validation of my application took about 10 weeks. So I had to provide a form, the drawing of the house plan. I also had to provide the 4 AST contracts, and then had to pay 450 quid for the planning certificate, which again was a bit of a pain. In hindsight, really the lender shouldn't have needed this certificate, because I had tenants in the house prior to the Article 4 regulations coming in, but because the surveyor internally was so difficult and didn't know the laws, I had to fulfill this planning certificate area as well. So in essence, what happened was it took 10 weeks to validate the application, and then the guys at planning were brilliant, so they kept me in the loop with it, and I got on really well with them. And in the end, they issued that certificate last week. So what happened was I bought the house around June time. It completed in October due to lockdown. Then I did 4 months, so that's November, December, January, February. Took us to the end of Feb, nearly March, to finish the job. Then we had to put the wall in for the tenants for fire regs, and then I had to go for the planning. So from May, April time, which is when we started the refinance, it's taken till now to get through the whole planning process and get a certificate and get completed. So the Article 4 regs are pretty tough, and the lender made it much more difficult than it needed to be. But the figures are 66 by 12 refurb, 2 grand furniture. Then we pulled out 27 grand, although we had an ERP, so an early repayment charge from the lender, because we'd done it within the 2-year period. So we paid 3%, which was about 1,500 quid. So we ended up with 25 grand back in the bank account, and 10 grand for cash flow for the year. 1,400, 700 times by 12 gives us about 10 grand from what my figures say. So in essence, we put £34,000 down, and we got over that back in the 25 grand refinance plus the 10 grand cash flow for the year. So ended up with a free house and £700 profit a month. Took us from the middle of 2020 through till November 21 to get the money back. So that's a bit crazy, isn't it? But in essence, that's how property goes sometimes. And now, because Article 4's come in, the house will escalate in value from 110 maybe up to about 150, maybe 20%, which will give us another 20 grandish on top at least. So we should go up to about 140 in the next couple of years, because it's a multi-let and it's making £700 cash flow a month. Anyway, any questions, put them below. That's my story from Barnsley. Terrace to multi-let conversion, another 30 grand profit, and on to the next one. Speak soon.